So since we successfully created the server, then what we need to do, all we have to do is to integrate the Tailwind CSS with our React.js application. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this unwanted files inside the source. So instead of that, what we can do, we can basically delete the source folder completely. Delete it. I'll delete it. Then right click your source client and then create a new folder, src. And inside this src folder, I'm going to create one more file called index.css. Basically, that's the main file which we needed. So now inside this index.js, we need to create our necessary data and everything. So that's what we're going to do. So first what we need to do is we need to import two important packages for your React application, which is basically React itself. So import React from React. Then we need to import the React DOM. So import React, this one, React DOM, but not as an object like this. We're going to import it from React DOM / client. Okay, so these are the two important things that we need to have. And of course, I'm going to import the app.js also, because we don't have that app.js, then we need to import that app.js as well. So let's create the app.js also. So here I'm just going to say app.js. All right, so here I'm just going to say RAFCE. So we install the ES6 or ES7 React snippets over there. So that's the RAFCE. Basically, the RAFCE means React Arrow Functional Component Export. Okay, so that will create this, save the changes, and let's go to the index.js, and here we're going to import that import app from /app. So we imported it. Now what we need to do is we need to create a root. Basically, if you go to your public folder, inside that you have the index.html folder. Everything is mounted directly to your root folder over here, this root root division, by using this id root. So we need to create that, then we can mount all the components directly to the division. So we're going to create that. So const root is equals react DOM, not this, react DOM dot create root method. Using that create root method, I'm going to get that document dot get element by id, and I'm going to access that id as a root. Now we have that root in our hand, and now we need to render everything inside this root. So to render it, all we have to do is to root dot render, open it. We're going to render it in the strict mode, because children's, you need to render it in all the child nodes and components, everything should be rendered in a React strict mode. So I'm going to use the React dot strict mode, enable it, and here we're going to put that app.js. So app, we're going to render that app.js, save the changes. So this is it. Now all we have to do is to make sure everything is working fine. Let's go to the client, and I'm just going to say yarn start, hit the enter, and that will trigger the development server, and here we go. So now our app.js is successfully loaded. So now what we need to do is, since the component is mounted directly to our root id, then we need to go ahead and install the Tailwind CSS. So let's go ahead and search for install Tailwind CSS with React. So you can find this link over here, install Tailwind CSS with the React app. So click that, and that will take you to this website where we already created the React project. So don't need to install that. Now we need to do this, we need to install this. Since we are using yarn, so we need to copy this alone, and let me open my new terminal. Let me create a new command prompt, and let me navigate to the client folder, and here I'm just going to say yarn add, paste it, press enter. So that will download the necessary files for your Tailwind CSS. It's downloaded successfully. Then what we need to do, we need to use this, we need to initialize the Tailwind CSS. Let me copy it and let me paste it over here. So yarn Tailwind CSS init. So once it's initialized successfully, that will create a tailwind.config.js folder in your root folder. Let me minimize the server. Now you can see the tailwind.config.js. So this is the place where we're gonna create all our custom classes and everything. Since it's initialized, now we need to update. So this Tailwind CSS needs to monitor the complete source folder. It should monitor the complete source folder for these kinds of files, JS, JSX, TS, TSX, all these kinds files needs to be monitored. Wherever I used to return Tailwind CSS, that needs to be converted into a CSS classes. All right. So then what we need to do, we need to put this inside the index.css file, and we need to load that index.css file in your index.js or app.js. In that case, I'm going to create a new CSS file over here, and I'm going to name it as index.css, and I'm going to paste it over here, save the changes. It's done. Then what I'm going to do, go to index.js file, and I'm right after here, I'm going to import it. Import dot slash index.css. Then what we need to do, all we have to do is to write these Tailwind utility classes and all those things. Before writing this, you need to install one more extension, that is basically your Tailwind IntelliSense. If you search for Tailwind IntelliSense, just search for Tailwind, you can find this Tailwind CSS IntelliSense. Please download this extension. That will help you to write the Tailwind CSS much faster. It will show you these suggestions so that you don't need to memorize all the CSS classes and its formats. All right, so now let me close this and let me go back to the app.js, and over here I'm just going to say class name is equals text blue. I'm going to keep it as a blue color, and I'm going to say it as the font semi bold. Let me save the changes and let me go here and have a look at it. It's not working. What we did wrong? Since it's not working, so let's restart the server one time and let's check it out. Yarn start. Now it's restarting, and look at that. Say, if in case, even though you configured everything properly, if it is not working fine, just restart it. That's fine. Just restart your server. It will work perfectly as it's supposed to. All right. So now we successfully configured the Tailwind CSS. Next, what we need to do, all we have to do write some custom CSS classes over here. So basically, okay, so let me add those properties over here. So what we need to do, basically, we are going to remove some the margin spaces and everything. So let's do that first. All right, all right, so now over here, exactly what we're going to do is I'm going to import our custom font over here. So to import our custom font, basically what you need to do is you need to go to the Google Fonts and you need to download the fonts and everything. It's not necessary. Go to your extension tab and search for Google Fonts, and that will give you the Google Fonts over here. See, just install this, and so that you can access the Google Fonts, whatever the fonts you want, it will directly import it into your file. In that case, I'm going to press the Control Shift P and search for Google Font. If you're using Windows, press Control Shift P. If you're using Mac, Command Shift P. In this case, I'm going to use the CSS at imports. Click that, and I'm going to say over here as we're going to use the font name called Jost. Just import it. Then right after here, I'm going to remove all the unwanted margin spaces and everything. Let's say margin 0, padding 0, and box sizing as a border box. Basically, we are changing our entire website into a box mode. So then what we need to do is body. All right, then. So now here, what we're going to do, we're going to change this to as a font family. I'm going to say font family, and we're going to add the font which we downloaded, Jost. And we can see if the font is not loading, we can use the sans serif. And after that, we're going to use this system UI fonts. All right, so now we added the fonts. Then what we need to do is just save all these changes and let's go back here. So everything is, since it's working fine. So now the index.css, it's absolutely fine. The next thing what we need to do, we need to work on the React route. That means the navigation route. That's what we're gonna do next.